Investigators in Russia say a suspect has been detained over the murder of top Russian General Igor Kirillov and an aide. According to the Russian Investigative Committee, an Uzbek national has been arrested and confessed during interrogation to planting a bomb and detonating it for Ukraine's security service. The explosion happened outside of a Moscow apartment block on Tuesday. A Ukrainian official has admitted Ukraine's responsibility for the assassination. Kyiv had this week accused Kirillov of being involved in the use of chemical weapons during Russia's war efforts. Earlier, we spoke to DW's Riga bureau chief, Yuri Resheto, and asked him what else is known about the suspect.
According to the Russian intelligence service FSB, the suspect is an Uzbek citizen. His name hasn't been given so far. He said he was recruited by the Ukrainian special services. He was promised $100,000 and a trip to one of the European countries. He said he placed a bomb on an electric scooter parked near the house where Kirillov lived. Also, he installed a CCTV camera. Footage from this camera was reportedly broadcast to Ukraine. In the confession video, the man speaks in bad Russian. It's not clear whether he might even be reading it, his confession.
Let's take a closer look at this case with Luca Trenta. He's an associate professor of international relations at Swansea University, specializing in covert action. Luca, bits of information about this assassination have trickled out from Russian and Ukrainian intelligence, including about the suspect. What have you found most striking?
I think the most striking aspect of this operation is certainly what we would call the tradecraft of Ukraine services in operating in what should, in theory, be a denied territory, so a territory in which they would have difficulties in operating. But this is already the second time in a week in which they carried out an operation, then an assassination in Moscow.
Why would Ukrainian intelligence even want to kill Igor Kirillov?
I mean, as the discussion earlier mentioned, there are certainly strategic reasons for killing Kirillov, because he was in charge of chemical, biological, and radiological weapons. And I think there are also some political reasons, because it was very often behind disinformation campaigns that tried to undermine the support for Ukraine, especially in the West, such as the U.S. alleged biolabs in Ukraine, which was a clear effort by Russia of spreading disinformation.
What does this tell us about the gaps in Russian intelligence? I suppose what I'm getting at is, why would a high-ranking general like Kirillov be that exposed?
That is a very interesting question. I think it tells us that certainly Russian counterintelligence is not as formidable as it seems when it comes to, for example, domestic repression. And that Ukraine was able to recruit an agent, whether the person that has been arrested is the actual culprit. They were able to recruit an agent and be able to surveil Kirillov for quite some time in order to identify a pattern of life and be able to place a bomb in an area where they knew that Kirillov was. So it certainly shows gaps in the ability to surveil a target and to protect the target.
Again, the suspect in this case has been apprehended. I'm curious, in your opinion, why would Ukraine's SBU intelligence agency recruit a man like him for this particular crime?
If the man recruited and the man that has been put on video is actually the person who is responsible for the assassination, one can probably think of access as one of the main reasons why such a subject was recruited. He would have the ability to travel to Moscow and conduct an operation for the Ukrainian intelligence services. But as the previous contributor was suggesting, there are perhaps some doubt as to whether that is actually the culprit. He was found apparently in a village just outside Moscow, in the Moscow region, so he was able also to escape from the scene of a crime, which again shows other gaps in Russian counterintelligence.
I suppose everybody's asking at this hour is, how will Russia likely respond?
Yes, I think we don't know. Medvedev has mentioned that in response to an editorial in the Times, that it will consider everyone behind political support for Ukraine equally responsible. I think that is an overstatement. The most likely response from Russia that we're likely to see is probably further and more violent bombing, especially of civilians in Ukraine.
As you well know, this is not the first assassination of a Russian official that has been attributed to agents of the Ukrainian government. What makes this case special?
I think there have been at least 5 so-called high-value targets that have been assassinated in recent years by Ukraine. I think this one is the most high-profile, is the highest value target, I guess, that Ukraine has targeted in its confrontation with Russia. And it is probably sending a political signal to both the international community, especially to the United States, as well as to the people of Moscow that perhaps had not witnessed the war as directly as the people of Ukraine have.
Again, that's Luca Trenta, Associate Professor of International Relations. Many thanks to you, sir.
Thank you.